Hi, welcome to 5 Ways to Encourage Gifts from Wills to Your Church. My name's Doug Miller, and I'll be your presenter today. I'm the attorney for Ozark Christian College, have been for the past 17 years. Before that, I was an attorney in private practice and did a lot of wills and trust and probate work, trust administration. So this is a topic that's very dear to me, and I think can be helpful to you and your church. Well, the first question is, why should your church encourage gifts from wills in the first place? Well, there are a lot of reasons that I can think of, but one really, really big reason. The greatest transfer of wealth ever of all times is on us. According to some estimates, $41 trillion is expected to transfer from one generation to the next between the years of 2000 and 2050. A study at Boston College prepared these figures and said that that amount of money is what's expected to transfer from the greatest generation, who were typically savers and people that lived through the Great Depression and were very frugal. Now we've got the baby boomer generation that is aging, and it will be making a transfer of wealth as well. So again, 41 trillion. Trillion's not a number I use every day. I had to look it up. A trillion is a million. So $41 trillion is 41 with 12 zeros behind it. So as you can see, the gift potential is tremendous. There's just one problem. Most people, if not many people, have not written a will or made any plans whatsoever. And if you die without an estate plan, then state law will decide what happens to your distribution of your property. So your state has guesstimated that you would want it to go to family members, and that's not a bad plan. But guess how much state law leaves to your church or to other Christian ministries that you support? You said zero, you're correct. So if you want to make a gift that benefits your church or benefits a ministry, you're going to have to take action and make your plans. It said that 80% of all people make a charitable gift during their lifetime. In other words, 80% of people make charitable donations, but only 5% include a charitable gift at their death. So while we know that many of our members of our churches faithfully tithe each week during their lifetime, but only a few of them will include a gift to the church at the end of their lives. And that's what we want to address. So this chart here shows, again, approximately 5% have made a charitable bequest commitment. However, surveys and research have found that 1/3 of the people are willing to consider making a charitable bequest. So there's a big opportunity there between the 5% that have and the 1/3 of the people that would consider it, if they were challenged, if they were educated, if they were encouraged to make a charitable gift. So that's what we want to talk about today. And you'll hear some different terms, and it can be kind of confusing. I've used the words gifts from wills. You also are familiar with an inheritance or a bequest. You'll also hear lawyers talk about estate plans, and you'll talk about fundraisers, we'll talk about planned gifts. All of these terms mean the same thing. They describe a gift that is given at death. I prefer to use the term legacy gift instead of gifts from wills, inheritances, estate plans, and planned gifts, because I think it encompasses more than just gifts from wills. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Legacy gifts are often the largest gift your church will receive. People are making tithe checks and offerings each week, maybe 10% of their income, but a legacy gift is usually the largest gift. There's an old story of a billionaire who died. And a reporter asked his accountant, well, how much money did he leave behind? The accountant thought for a minute and said, all of it. So when we die, we make our largest gift. We cannot take it with us, so we're giving it to someone. And we also know that most of our wealth isn't in cash, isn't money in the bank. It's usually tied up in our house, in real estate, land, rental properties, our investments, life insurance, retirement accounts. That's where the bulk of our wealth exists. So when we're talking about making a gift, it's from that part part of the iceberg that's under the water, not the 10% cash, but the 90% that's submerged. And that's, again, the assets like we've just described, real estate and investments. You do need to be aware that other charities are actively asking your church members for legacy gifts, whether it be Humane Society or Salvation Army, Christian organizations, as well as non-Christian organizations. They're actively asking for your members to make a legacy gift to them. But my question is, are you asking your church members to include the church in their wills? What could your church do with a substantial legacy gift, say $100,000 or even $1 million? Could they put it to use? Obviously, there's needs in the church, and there's always a need for improving facilities or replacing a van, perhaps starting a food pantry or other outreach in the community. And again, you support missionaries that have needs, that could do more, and that are accomplishing great things all over the world. If they had the resources, they could do even more. So I'm confident that your church could handle $1 million gift. They would find a good use for it to put it to work for the Lord. So again, it's important for us to even start thinking about that, it's not too much to ask. There are millionaires that are in your church, in their retirement accounts or in their, life insurance, or again, their property that they own. So the money is there. It's just whether or not the churches are asking and encouraging that type of a gift. Excuse me. The benefits for churches are pretty easy. When invited to make a gift, your members are going to consider the influence of the church in their own spiritual growth, in their own life, whether it's a church they've grown up in, or their children or their grandchildren have grown up in. They've been baptized, married, perhaps loved ones have been buried and memorialized in your church. There's an emotional bond that reinforces their desire to see the ministry of the church continue for future generations, even after they're gone. And sadly, it's often true that the most generous members of your church are those who are older, and it will take a long time to replace their giving when they pass away. However, leaving a legacy gift can help replace the loss of their regular giving. Let me give you an example. Let's assume a widow gives $3,000 a year to your church. Well, if she included a gift of $100,000 to your church, it could be invested at 3% and replace her $3,000 a year gift in perpetuity, forever, for years and years to come if you set it up that way. So again, there's ways to access gifts at death that will help replace their loss in regular giving. And it's just obvious that if more people wrote wills and made charitable bequests, churches are going to receive more of these benefits, more of these needed resources so they can expand their ministry and fulfill their mission. Let's look now to benefits for the members themselves. Well, a legacy giving program, by that I mean encouraging, challenging your church members to make plans. That will help educate them, those who haven't made plans. As we've talked about, there's a need for them to make plans and again, take action so that they can accomplish what their intentions are. They have to take action, they have to step up and act. Everyone has the right to direct what happens to their possessions and assets upon their death. We said if there's not, then again, the state will decide. Your members will find that making a legacy gift to their church is a meaningful way to make a difference and to provide for future needs for the church. When we think about it, we've all benefited from the generosity of prior generations. We want to help our children, our grandchildren, and others in the future. And legacy giving allows us to make an impact and to make a difference and continue to fund the ministry well after we're gone. The main reason people leave a gift to a charity is because they believe in its mission. And as Christians, we believe in the mission of the church. That is to reach the world for Christ, to reach out to their community, to be salt and light where they are, to send out missionaries, to raise up preachers and teachers of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Your members believe in the ministry of the church. They have made an investment of their time and money. They've attended for long periods of time. They've given where your heart is. There your treasure is also. Where your treasure is, there your heart is also. So they have given and provided and served in your church and invested in it in many different ways. They want to see it continue. They want to help with in the future as well. Excuse me. Before we get into different ways to encourage gifts from wills, I want to unpack different ways you can make a legacy gift. The first one is one we've already been talking about, making a gift in your will or your trust. An attorney can prepare a will or trust for you that includes a gift to your church. Now, I specifically mentioned using an attorney to make your will or trust. Yes, you can download one from the internet. Yes, you can make a copy of one at the library. But stop and think, this is your life savings, and these are your loved ones. These are the causes you care about the most. It's really not the place to cut corners and hope that it'll all work out. So I encourage you strongly to talk to an attorney in your state that can help you, that's experienced. And most attorneys do wills and trusts, and they'll be happy to help you. And they will be able to make a plan that is specific to what you want to accomplish. They can fashion it and word it in a way that accomplishes what you intend. So again, don't try to do it on your own. Don't download a form that's good in all 50 states that really doesn't meet your needs. It's money well spent. So in your will or in your trust, you can make a charitable gift any number of ways. One is a specific dollar amount, two, a percentage, or three, the remainder to your church or ministry. So for example, you could give $10,000 to First Christian Church. That's a clear amount, and it's very simple, very direct. I usually have people stop and think, we don't know how much money we're going to be worth when we die. If we're only worth $12,000, $10,000 is a very substantial chunk of your estate. However, if you're worth $3 million, $10,000 is a very small portion of your estate. So I recommend the second option, which is 10% or a percentage of your estate. Because whether it is $100 or whether it is $3 million, 10% will factor out. So I often encourage people to consider things in percentages because it'll be the appropriate amount regardless of the size of the estate. And finally, you can say, I give all the residue and the remainder of my estate to the church. This could be in a conjunction with making some specific gifts and then saying all else. So I give my house and my car to my nephew and all else to the church. What that would do is say whatever is not specifically given, devised to someone else will be given to the church. An attorney can also explain the options to avoid probate. Probate is completely optional. If you do planning now, you can totally avoid going to probate. That will save time, trouble, and expense. So you can, by doing some planning in advance, you can avoid the cost of an executor, the attorney's fees and court costs, publication costs that are involved in a probate estate, and you can redirect that money to your church. I think that's good stewardship, that you have saved 6, 8, 10% of your estate in probate costs and redirected that to the Lord's work. To me, that's a win. Statistics show that 80 to 90% of the legacy gifts or planned gifts come in the form of a simple bequest in a will or in a trust. So it's the most popular method of doing it, again, including that phrase in your will or trust. However, it's not the only way to give. We're going to look at a few extras. Excuse me. Another way to make a legacy gift would be to name your church as a beneficiary of a life insurance policy. So life insurance we buy and we pay premiums for to replace our income if we die because we have dependents, a spouse, minor children. Well, maybe your children are all grown. Maybe you're single or widowed and you don't have a spouse. Well, you could consider naming your church as the beneficiary of your life insurance. Or if your spouse is still alive, you could name your spouse as the primary beneficiary and name your church as the secondary or contingent beneficiary if your spouse predeceases you. Some people I know have left the church the same share as they have their children. Let's say they have 3 children, and the church, they also list the 3 children as beneficiaries and the church, and so that each one would receive a 1/4 share. I think that's a good way to provide for your children and also to include a gift for the church. So if you have life insurance, there's other planning that can be done with that. You can also give ownership of the life insurance to the church and pay premiums and be able to deduct that as a charitable gift. So don't forget life insurance as an opportunity for making a legacy gift. Another option for making a legacy gift is your traditional retirement accounts. And by that, I'm referring to a traditional IRA or a 401k, 403b. These particular types of retirement accounts may offer substantial savings if you include a charity. So when money is withdrawn from a traditional IRA, and again, I'm not describing a Roth IRA, when money is drawn from a traditional IRA, it becomes taxable income to you. So in other words, you put the money in an IRA and that is not considered to be taxable income. It goes in tax-free, it grows, and then when you reach a certain age, you have to take money out, and that becomes taxable income to you. But at that point, you may be at a lower tax bracket because your income and your earnings are lower. So the IRS makes you take money out when you turn 70 and a half. However, if you distribute make a distribution from an IRA, a traditional IRA, directly to a charity like your church or a ministry, it can totally avoid the tax. So again, a person when they turn 70, the year they turn 70 and a half, the IRS has set a required minimum distribution for them to take out. Not because the IRS cares about your well-being or your financial needs. Their patience is up. They want you to pay tax on that. So there's 2 things that you can do with a traditional retirement account. One is while you're alive, the tax code allows you to direct up to $100,000 per year to a charity, including a ministry, and that will count as your required minimum distribution. So if you're taking required minimum distributions that you don't need and you have a charitable desire, that's a great match. You can say, don't give it to me, give it to the charity. The charity receives it. The charity's tax rate is 0, so that money never was taxed. It was put in pre-tax, it grew tax-free, and when it was distributed to a qualified charity, no tax. Very, very good stewardship. There's also opportunity to make your church as a beneficiary of your traditional or your Roth IRA at your death, and there's no limit to the amount that you can give to a charity at your death. So again, a lot of good planning opportunities for retirement accounts. And again, one good thing about it is you don't need an attorney to do it. You just need to talk to your plan administrator about changing your beneficiaries or about making a charitable IRA rollover during your lifetime. The option we just described also doesn't require an attorney to change your life insurance. So just the first option that I mentioned, making a will or trust, would require an attorney's help. But doing life insurance, doing a retirement account, or the next one here is titling your assets to transfer on death to your church. Now, this varies from state to state, but in Missouri, just about any type of property can be titled to transfer on death. Transfer on death is relatively new. It's only been around 30 years. What it allows you to do is title property in your names only, and you're 100% owner while you're alive, but then when you die, it becomes 100% to the person that you've designated to transfer on death. So let's give an example here. On a vehicle, it could be titled Fred and Wilma Transfer on Death to Bedrock Church. So Fred and Wilma are 100% owners. If they want to sell the car, give it away, they consign that title. We don't need Bedrock Church. In fact, they have zero interest. The church has zero interest until or unless both owners die. So Fred and Wilma could change the transfer on death and give it to another church or another person if they so choose. They retain complete control. Now, bank accounts can also be titled to transfer on death, but we use the different terminology of payable on death. So you'll see a bank account, Fred and Wilma, POD, to the church. So again, on just about any type of property, bank accounts, investments, CDs, stock, real estate, vehicles, boats, motors, trailers, anything that has a title in Missouri and in most states can be retitled from your names to your name's transfer on death to your church. So just keep that in mind. In Missouri, it's called the non-probate transfer law. So totally avoids probate, goes directly to them. There's only one provision to that is payment of bills. You have to make sure the bills get paid. Otherwise, the creditors can pull that money back, pull that property back in to be paid. But subject to payment of bills, it goes directly to your beneficiaries, and that can include your church. And the last option I want to talk about for making a legacy gift is appreciated stock, securities, or real estate. You can support the ministry of the church and reduce your taxes. When I say an appreciated asset, I'm talking about one that's increased in value. So let's assume that you bought stock for $1,000 and now the stock is worth $10,000. If you sell the stock, you'll owe taxes on the $9,000 gain from the $1,000 purchase price to the $10,000 sales price. That's taxable income. However, that's what my second point is. If you sell an appreciated asset, you're going to owe tax on the difference between the basis, either what you acquired it with or what it's been depreciated down to, and the sales price. However, if you give the appreciated asset to a qualified charity like a church or another ministry, it receives the entire amount. You can take the stock and sell it, receive the full $10,000 and avoid taxes altogether. You'll get a charitable deduction for the value of the stock on the day you give it, and there won't be any tax to it. Again, a great way to avoid taxes, help charity, and again, it's a win-win for you and for the charity. So remember that if you have property that's gone up in value and you have a charitable intent, you want to help a ministry, you want to put this to work, it's a great option. Now, finally, to the subject matter of our presentation on 5 ways to encourage legacy gifts. The first way is pretty obvious. We just need to teach on this subject. Christians need to be taught to be good stewards of God's property now and at the end of their life, during their lifetime and after their lifetime. The church can teach its members to view wealth and possessions from God's perspective. I want to share, there's a lot of scriptures that you could preach on giving, on stewardship, on money, on debt, on greed. I'm just going to give you 5. First biblical principle is God is the owner. Psalm 24:1. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. God created it. God made it. He owns it. We're merely in possession of his property. Second principle, we're to provide for our dependents. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, if anyone does not provide for his relatives and especially his immediate family, he is denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So we must provide for our dependents, must provide for our spouse and our minor children. Another principle is that people are more important than possessions. In Luke chapter 15, there's 3 parables. The parable of the lost sheep, where the shepherd left the 99 to go search for the one. The parable of the lost coin, where the woman swept the house to find that 10th coin that was lost. And finally, the parable of the lost son, or the prodigal son, in which the father lets the son go away and then looks on the horizon and sees him coming back and is always looking for his return. Those aren't just parables about coin collecting or shepherding. Those are really, the heart of that is God is concerned about the lost, and he cares about people, and we should too. He's concerned about the sheep that went astray and the coin that was lost and the lost son that was prodigal that finally came to his senses and came back home. God has a heart for those that are lost, and God cares about people. The fourth scripture I want to share with you today is we are accountable to the owner. In Matthew 25, we read the parable of the talents, in which the master gives talents in different amounts to different people. And to the first two, he says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Share in your master's joy." But there was the third steward who was given one talent, buried it, brought back the one talent. And he had very harsh words for him. So we need to realize that we are going to be held responsible for what we've been given. And this is not just our property, but our abilities, our time, and our resources. We're going to be accountable to the owner someday, and we need to consider that. And finally, our primary motivation should be love. 1 Corinthians 13. If I give away all my possessions, I give my body over, but have no love, I gain nothing. So without love, we have to be motivated by love. Again, we need to love what God loves. So a lot of different opportunities to teach on the subject of giving, and again, also about being good stewards while you're alive and good stewards at your death. Opportunities to promote legacy giving and teach about it. You have your church communications, you have newsletters, bulletins, social media, Facebook, Twitter, your apps that you have for your church. You can promote legacy giving there. You might have a legacy giving website, a legacy giving page on your website. And there's a lot of good articles that talk about needing a will and what Christians should consider when making a will, and ways to make gifts. So that'd be another way to promote it, teach about it. You can describe how legacy gifts would help the ministry of the church. If we had the money, we would build a community room. We would build a homeless shelter. We would build, again, a food pantry or something like that if we had the funds. So if you create the vision and paint the picture for what could be done with an estate gift, then again, people can think that that's something that I could do. Finally, I mentioned here, elders and church leaders really should teach legacy giving by being an example and making their own plans so that they can get up and say, I did it, I've included this, I've included the church in my estate plans, and I encourage you to do the same. There's a lot of value in today's world by saying, other people have done this, I can too. Other people have made a gift in their will, I can do that too. I don't even have a will. I need to make a will, and I'm going to include a gift to the church. That kind of social capital is very persuasive. So the leaders need to get out front, start with the elders and their ministers, and getting them on board for supporting the ministry of the church in their estate plan, and they'll be able to do the same and encourage others as well. Another way to promote legacy giving would be just to put little taglines in your publications or in your communications. Here's just a few examples. Please remember the church in your will or trust. Well, again, people are open to considering it, but are we reminding them? Are we making it easy for them? Asking questions, does your will reflect your Christian faith? Can you tell by looking at your will that you're a Christian? Does it look any different than a non-Christian will? Should it? Name your church as a beneficiary of your life insurance or retirement account. No lawyers needed. Again, you can do that directly yourself. You appreciate the church, appreciate what it's done in your life, then leave a gift to the church in your will. Gifts and wills are simple, don't cost you anything now, and they can always be changed. They can always be changed up until the point you die. Do you tithe now? Well, have you considered tithing in your will or your trust? Don't have a will? No will? Don't let the state decide where your money is going. You decide where your money is going. And finally, making an estate plan is good Christian stewardship. People need to realize, I've often thought of this, we say God is the owner of all and he cares about how we use his property. You think he quits caring about how we use his property when we die? I don't. I think he's concerned about, were you a good steward? Did you make plans? Did you direct the resources that I had entrusted to you in a good way that's going to help other people? So again, it's a teaching on stewardship. Another idea for teaching would be to publish an estate planning checklist. And here's just an example. Do you have a will? Is it up to date? Have you selected guardians for your minor children? Parents with minor children, that's one of the most important decisions they can make, is who would be the guardians if mom and dad were not able to parent. You get to decide. And you can also decide at what age would they get their money. If you don't make any plans, they'll get it the day they turn 18. And I know for myself, I wouldn't have made very good, wise choices with a lot of money if I turned the day I turned 18. So maybe you want to set that up at 21 or 25 at older age. Have I made a power of attorney if I become incapacitated? Usually when people talk about planning their estate, they think about when I die. But as we are living longer, there's much greater chance that there'll be a period of time where we can't take care of ourselves, whether it be a mental or physical issue, that we're just unable, and we're going to need someone else to do that. Well, you can decide, you can avoid the court proceeding of a guardianship if you sign a power of attorney. So the idea is, while you're able, you're nominating someone to make decisions for you if you ever become unable. Same with medical power of attorney. You're going to make decisions on whether they operate or whether they don't, or what kind of treatment. Again, if you're not able to communicate those decisions, you can appoint a person to make those decisions for you. Do I have life insurance? Again, very important that you have life insurance if you don't have enough assets to provide for your dependents, your spouse, your minor children. Have I included a gift to the church in my will or trust? It's a great question. We know from that first statistic, 95% of people would say no. And when will I make the plan? Again, we need to call them to action to take and to begin the process. The second way to encourage legacy giving is to really celebrate when legacy gifts are received. When the church receives an inheritance, make a public announcement. It's an opportunity to show appreciation to the family, and it shows that their gifts are appreciated and acknowledged, and it'll serve as a reminder to other members. You can publish a list of those who have made legacy gifts in the past. And again, honors the donor, honors the family, lets them know they're not forgotten, and it serves as an example and encouragement to others. And finally, consider sending a press release to your local newspaper when you receive a legacy gift. Describe how the gift will be used to help the church fulfill its mission to minister to the community and to the world. So when someone dies, say that we received a nice gift from her estate and that we're going to use that money to buy a new van to be able to take kids to church programs and to pick them up for Sunday school and after school programs and Meals on Wheels. So again, it's a way to honor the donor. It's a way to challenge other people. And honestly, people want to be part of a church that's doing something in the community. And when they hear your church is using this resource that they've received in a way that helps other people, that will be attractive to them. They'll want to be part of that kind of a church. A third idea to encourage legacy giving is to enlist the help of the attorneys, accountants, bankers, financial advisors, and insurance agents who attend your church. Ask them if they would serve on a legacy gift advisory committee. You can use their professional wisdom and experience and contacts to learn more about the different options and to learn about the best way to approach. Many of them will have clients that are also members of your congregation. I know my insurance agent goes to church with me. Part of the reason why I chose him to be my insurance agent. So these professionals will have contacts in your church. Ask them to initiate the charitable giving discussions with their clients. One phrase that's been helpful is this, again, using the example of other people. And we say, many people have included a gift to their favorite charity in their will. Have you considered leaving a gift to your church in your will? What would your hopes and dreams for the church be in the future? So we're giving people asking that question. And often they're like, well, these are the ministries I support while I'm alive, and this is ones I'm supporting now. Well, would you consider making a gift to them in your estate? Again, I can make a case that your church and these ministries that you regularly support are some of your dependents. Would they miss your giving if you were gone? I think they would. Again, your legacy gift can help replace your lack of giving. So again, you've got professionals in your congregation, use them. Ask for their opinion, get their advice, and again, they'll help you solicit these requests if that's what your members want to do. This statistic here says 31% never revise their wills. Well, 69% do. But notice 75% people don't revise their charitable bequest. So even if they revise their will, the charities that they support remain. What this means is if you can get in their will or their trust, or they've listed you as a beneficiary, they're likely to keep you there. So first step is getting into their will or trust, or be named as one of beneficiaries of one of their accounts, and you're likely to remain. A fourth way to encourage estate gifts would be to host educational seminars on wills and trusts. An estate planning seminar from a Christian perspective can be a valuable service for your members. It'll help them understand their need for a will, discuss different options, and how they are able to be good and faithful stewards, again, according to biblical principles. Provide handouts, offer resources, allow time for question and answers, to be able to educate them, again, have these type of questions answered for them. Seminars could be held during a Sunday school hour, during a Bible study, during a Wednesday night service or a regular service, or on a special day at the church. If you have it at a regular scheduled time, you'll probably have a bigger crowd. If you have it on a special day and a special time, you'll probably have a smaller crowd, but those that are there will be more motivated. They want to know. They want this information. And again, they are glad to hear from a biblical perspective and for a free consultation. Ozark Christian College offers several seminars. A few of the seminars that I have include Understanding Wills, Trusts, and Probate, just simplifying the terms and the options. Is your estate in order? Is a simple checklist. Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you need this? Top 10 estate planning mistakes. People wonder, have I missed anything? Is there anything I need to know? And so we go over some common ones. Confessions of a Probate Lawyer. Again, as an attorney that's been in private practice, I can tell you that lawyers make more money off those that don't plan or that do their own plan than they would ever charge you to prepare the plan. So again, sometimes that's interesting to hear from an insider's perspective. And finally, we need to talk, just again, have the conversation with your children or with your parents about this. And let's demystify it. Let's get it out in the open so that your intentions are carried out. If you'd like to schedule a legacy planning seminar at your church, please contact us. We'd be happy to talk to you. The fifth and final way to encourage legacy gifts would be to start a legacy society. And a legacy society is just a way to recognize those who have made a legacy gift to the church in their plans. Members can join the Legacy Society by just letting us know that they've left a legacy gift to the church. As we mentioned earlier, legacy gifts may be the largest ones that your church will receive. And the likelihood that you will receive a legacy gift increases the more visible and ongoing of a program that you have. And it becomes part of your regular church culture. A certain time of year you may set aside to just each year to say, well, we're going to have estate planning. We're going to encourage people to update their wills and to make gifts. And again, it's something that can just become part of the church culture. A legacy society is an excellent way to talk about legacy giving and to encourage other members to include the church in their plans. Would you like to join the Legacy Society? Well, how do I join? You just make a gift. Well, how do I make a gift? Again, it's an opportunity for you to invite them to join and then again have the details on what that involves. So different ways to recognize them. One would be just a special event, a luncheon or a dinner, and thanking them for their gifts. You could publish a name, publish a list of their names. You can also put a plaque on the wall of those that have given in the past and those that have promised in the future. So again, just a way to recognize and again to encourage that. You get to set the membership guidelines. Typically, you would allow someone to make to become a member if they tell you that they have signed a will or trust, named the church as a beneficiary of life insurance or retirement accounts, titled an asset to transfer on death to the church, and complete a form that says, yeah, I want to join. Now, you can give them an option of listing them. Some people don't want to be listed as a member. They want to remain anonymous, and we want to respect that. So it's an option that their name would be included in the Legacy Society honor. So I've included a few legacy frequently asked questions. Again, a legacy gift takes effect at death. A legacy giving program isn't anything formal other than just teaching about it and perhaps hosting a seminar, doing some publications. Obviously, how your legacy gift be used, that's up to the donor. The donor can describe if they want to put any restrictions on it. If they don't put any restrictions, then the church can use it for whatever need they so choose. But you could also specify, no, this is restricted. This is for future use, or for the building fund, or for the children's program. When should you start thinking about legacy giving? Well, everyone should have a will. Parents especially should have a will to appoint a guardian. Making a will is the ideal time to think about what kind of legacy you want to leave. It provides peace of mind. Very often when I complete an estate plan for a couple, they say, well, that was easy. I feel better about it. I've got some peace of mind that things are going to be taken care of, and I've got things the way I want them. And it also allows you to provide for your loved ones and those causes you care about. Specific amount? No. Any size is appreciated. How do I do it? Those are the things we've talked about earlier in your will, your trust, your life insurance, retirement, transfer on death. What are the benefits? Again, benefits of giving is it's a way to care for those causes you care about, and it will serve to support your faith community, your church. You're continuing to serve and be active in the ministry even after you're gone. And some of them have some tax advantages that are important. And you should talk to your accountant about your specific situation. That's the next step. You need to take action. You need to make a plan if you haven't. You need to talk to your advisors. I'd like to take a team approach. I don't know all about taxes or about investments, so I would encourage you to talk to your accountant, your attorney, your financial planner, your insurance agent, etc., whoever you have your property, and ask them for advice and recommendations. And ask them, well, which would be, I want to give something to my church. What would you recommend? And they may say, look at this asset over here. You bought it in 1965, and if you sold it, you would owe a great amount of tax. That would be a great gift to donate. So again, in closing, the benefits of a legacy giving program are that it helps raise awareness of the need for planning and the options for charitable giving. Keep it simple. I don't want to get too complicated about fancy trusts or complicated estate plans. Very simple. There's simple ways to do it that we've talked about today, like changing beneficiary or making property to transfer on death. Legacy giving is a chance to acknowledge those who do support the church. And again, it will help the church remain financially stable in the future so that the next generation can have those same blessings that we have from the church. Ozark Christian College wants to help churches. We're here to serve the church, and we want to support you in your legacy giving, and we can assist, and we're willing to assist with providing resources, again, providing seminars. Perhaps we can help you with stewardship and fundraising ideas. And we have a lot of talented faculty who would be able and willing to come and preach on stewardship, generosity, or any other topic that would be a benefit to your church. So if you have any questions, I've put my contact information here, my email. You can contact me at the college. And again, if I can help you, I'll try to point you to someone who can. Thank you for joining our webinar, and I appreciate your support of Ozark Christian College.